Hello, hello. My name is Dakota Kuntz, and this video is for coaches, who panic and get discouraged and feel rejected when clients say, I don't think I want to renew, or I don't want to renew, or whatever. And there's thoughts that show up in the head about like, how do I handle this? Do I need to like try and convince them? Do I let them go? You get all weird. You get all weird in your tummy. You get all weird. Okay, so like I said, my name is Dakota Kuntz. I've owned my own coaching practice for a little over a year and a half now, and I have an annual run rate of $30,000, $600, whatever. I work a full-time job. I'm a director of marketing while also doing my own coaching practice. I'm also now a professional speaker. So I travel the country speaking at trade shows and all that jazz. And I'm now playing a game called Speaking in Arenas in the next 3 years. Let's see what else. Oh, I'm also a global coach these days. I'm coaching people not only in the US, but an individual in Europe as well. And most importantly, I'm a mentor for coaches, specifically on the journey to make the first $5,000 in their coaching practice. So this video is not about like what you should do. Like what I'm telling you is not like take this as fact. This has been my experience of really what's worked. And this is true for me, not necessarily true for the world, okay? And what I've learned. Now, when clients say, I'm ready to land the plane, or I'm ready to quit, I'm done working with you, okay? What always shows up for me, or at least what used to, was, oh no, I must have failed. I need to convince them and manipulate them to stay. Like, what in the fuck do I do, okay? Now, one client in particular has told me 3 times that we're completing. Like 3 times. And every time we've continued to work together. Now, why and how? And we've been working together for almost 2 years now, okay? So what I've learned is the more unattached to the outcome that I can be, the more effective I am in the conversation. Now, that might be obvious, but how do you do that? Okay? At the core is, what game are they playing? What are they up to? Okay? This is the heart of the whole thing. Coaching only makes sense if the client is up to something really big. Like, I just want to emphasize this, and I'm going to say it later, but I'm going to emphasize this. Nobody needs a coach. Nobody needs a coach. Now, you may disagree with that, and that's fine. That's fine. I don't care. Okay? But if they're playing this client that's going to no longer work with you, if they're playing a small game next, they don't need me. They never needed me, but like, it doesn't make sense for us to work together. If they don't have any big plans for what's the rest of their life looks like, then I honestly, I don't want to coach them. Like, anyway. Okay, cool. So if they're playing a big game, like if they have big dreams, if they're moving into something really big in their life, then it probably will be obvious that it makes sense that they have some assistance in this. Okay? So my role is not to convince them to stay. My role is to help them get really crystal clear on what they've accomplished, what they want next, and whether that thing is big enough to warrant support. Okay? Whether it's me or the Dalai Lama, I don't give a shit. What they're up to, is it big enough that they should, or it would make sense to have support, right? So like, if a vision is big, becoming a CEO, I have a client who's going to be a CEO in 3 years. I have a client who's going to be the mayor in Africa, this place in Africa, in the next 3 years. Like, if their dream, that one of them is going to make $500,000 in the next 3 years, if the dreams are big enough, it's like, obviously, it makes sense for us to continue to work together, okay? But if the vision isn't that big, then like, Who gives a shit? Okay, so step-by-step process. They say, I'm done. And for me, I'll say, beautiful, that's amazing. I love it. Now, let's get really clear on what you've accomplished thus far, just so you can have that, okay? They'll do some homework. And again, nobody needs coaching. So like, cool, do some homework. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out what you've done. Because chances are they don't remember. Maybe they've been tracking it throughout their journey. That's beautiful. But we just got to make sure that we're clear on what they've done. Next. What do they want to do next? Hold on. Yeah, okay, cool. What is the game that they want to take on? And this is usually how I create it. I say, listen, I want to get clear on what we're doing, what you've accomplished, and I also want to get clear on where you're going. What is your next dreams? Because we don't need to work together, but I'd love for you to walk away from this experience having on like what the next step is and where we're going. Because if we work together, great, but if not, you at least know where you're trying to get to. Okay, so maybe they'll do some work on their own depending on how early you start in the process. Okay, but this client and I will work through and we'll talk through everything they've done and where they're trying to get to. And sometimes that's a whole session. Sometimes that's multiple sessions, depending on, where they're at in their journey. Eventually, we'll get really clear on what their dreams are. Eventually, it's like, will be pretty obvious, okay? Now, at that point, I'll say, great, now, with where you're trying to get to, do you want some assistance in that? And it's either a yes or it's a no. If they think they can get there without a coach or without assistance, good. That's awesome. Then we're done. Honestly, I probably don't want to work with them because, it's probably not that big of a game, whatever. So it's either a yes or it's either a no. Wonderful. And then if it's a yes, then I'll share my new rates because I'm always raising my rates. I raise my rates on a regular basis, okay? This is not about convincing them at all. If you go into the conversation trying to keep them or trying to, make them realize it makes sense to work together, then you're going to be needy and gross. Go in curious and only go in with the intention of making sure they're clear on what their dreams are and what's next. And if you do that, that's a fucking win. Honestly, I haven't had that many clients thus far in my coaching career. I've had like 7 or 6, 5, I don't know. But most of them have stuck with me a long time because I continue to help them elevate what the fuck they're up to. Okay? And let's see. Yeah. The point isn't to pressure or manipulate someone into renewing. It's just getting really clear on what they've accomplished, where they're going next, and whether the game is big enough that coaching actually makes sense. Sometimes it's a no. Fine, that's great. Sometimes it's a yes, great. Sometimes it's a yes, and in my eyes, the game is too small that it's like, actually, I don't know if I agree. I don't know if we should work together, and then we'll play with it. Okay, and everything that I've said here is just my interpretation of what Townsend has already trained in the Path to Pro section in the coach's operating system. Okay, not only does he have a breakdown of like an hour and a half session of how to talk about it, but then he has a playbook in there that like you can use the exact words. So if you're not a part of the coach's operating system, be a part of the coach's operating system. If you're not a part of Path to Pro, you should be a part of Path to Pro. And yeah, that's what I got. I love you, and I hope you have an amazing day. Mwah.